Hello, thank you for visiting the online home for CPR and First Aid Training School. We're here to kind of give you an online experience. That way you don't have to come all the way in and learn how to do CPR, okay? It's very simple. We're gonna go over 4 major key points. What is CPR? When do you do it? Why do you do it? And how do you do it, okay? By the way, my name is Chris, this is G Medical CPR. CPR First Aid Training School. We have 2 locations. One in Inglewood, 502 South La Brea Avenue, and one in Long Beach, 700 West Willow Street, Long Beach, California, okay? You can give us a call at 310-946-2533, or you can contact all of our information on the website or the links in the description. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe. Okay, so CPR is what we're dealing with, okay? We need to give a good understanding of what are we talking about with CPR, okay? So CPR is an acronym that stands for Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation. Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation. Okay? So these are big words, okay? And you know, the approach that I take is that when I was a seat in the class, I was a student in the class having a seat, about 14, lifeguard, you know, it just all went over my head, you know, dealing with these big words. So what I'm going to try to attempt to do today is simplify everything for you, okay? So first we're dealing with the cardio, the C, from which we're talking about the cardiovascular system, okay? So let's go to a demonstration of what that looks like. This is an example of cardiovascular system, right? Your cardiovascular system consists of your heart circulating blood throughout your blood vessels, your arteries, veins, things of that nature, right? And its main function is the transportation system of the body, okay? The cardiovascular system definitely deals with the heart, which is the main pump, but also the blood itself, right? As well as the pathways, right? The arteries, the veins, things of that nature, okay? All right, now the P, pulmonary, working very closely with the heart, right? It is talking about the lungs, which obviously deal with oxygen, right? It's common sense, we all kind of deal with that. We actually have a really good video on the online training that explains completely the cardiovascular system and how it relates to the lungs, right? There's this artery right here that's called the pulmonary artery. The deoxygenated blood then comes into the lungs, it comes back out oxygenated or oxygen rich, and now it goes or transports throughout the body via the aorta and delivers oxygen to different cells of the body, okay? All right, resuscitation. If we were to define this word a little further, it means to revive. Okay? Now, the 3 main organs that we're dealing with that we want you to be concerned with is the heart circulating blood, right? The lungs bringing in the oxygen, and these 2 organs combining together to produce oxygenated blood. Okay, now that is the energy source for the brain. Okay, the brain needs oxygen. The transportation, right? The transportation for that oxygen is the blood through the beating of the heart. Okay, so what can happen, right? Heart attack. What can happen? Choking, allergic reaction where your tongue swells up, cardiac arrest, and all these different ailments of the heart. What can happen is something in some form of fashion is going to stop this oxygenated blood from going to this brain, and the brain will shut off. okay? From that moment forward, now you have an approximate 10-minute window until the person will become brain dead. Right? And you want to save this person as quickly as possible to give them the highest quality of life as possible. Okay? So at the moment when they fall out, the brain is shut off because something has impeded this oxygenated blood from going to the brain. Now we need to get started with CPR. Okay? Now, clinically or medically, when that happens, which is what we're dealing with now, the person is considered dead. Why is that? Well, if we don't do any CPR from this moment forward, that time will just go further and further, right? Until the person will be brain dead and nothing will ever bring them back to life, okay? So when we resuscitate or revive the brain by putting oxygenated blood back into the brain, that's what brings the brain back to life, okay? And so with all of this being said, this is the importance of CPR. You know, this procedure is always on the table, no matter what the case may be, whenever a person dies. When the brain shuts off due to lack of oxygenated blood going to the brain, CPR is now something that we can use to sustain the brain until the ambulance arrives, or to bring the brain back to life ourselves. But just understand, when the 911 emergency does arrive, they will also be doing CPR, okay? They'll probably have a lot more equipment, a lot more experience. They'll probably have the AED, oxygen tanks, things of that nature. So they'll be far more effective, so you definitely want to call them. But at the end of the day, they will be doing CPR as well, okay? Now, the increasing level of brain damage that we allude to with this arrow right here, you know, that kind of signifies what happens when the cells of the body don't get oxygenated blood and the damage increases, okay? After the 5-minute mark, it starts to get severe. Right? And we don't want that, right? Because, you know, what kind of quality of life can you have if you can't see, you can't feel, you can't think properly, your speech, your motor skills, everything's messed up. So if you do find somebody in a situation in need of CPR, we want to get started as soon as possible. Reason being is because we want to give them a quality of life after they get saved. Now, the ambulance can arrive as soon as possible, quickly as possible, and it can be 7 to 8 minutes, but it's still not enough. We need you doing CPR until they arrive to give the victim the best quality of life after the resuscitation attempt, okay, if we are able to save their life, okay? Now, let's deal with this when, right? The way you understand when it's time to do CPR, you want to be 100% sure the person is dead. And if that's the case, rest assured you don't have to worry about any lawsuits, you don't have to worry about hurting or killing them or making matters worse, because it can only go up from there, okay? So the first thing you want to look for is unresponsiveness. Okay? After that, we want to check for breathing. And then after that, we want to check for pulse. Okay? So, ultimately, right back again, we're kind of dealing with the acronym of CPR. Cardio, heart, pulmonary, lungs, producing oxygenated blood, and once again, the brain, right? When we check for responsiveness, we're checking for the function of the brain. Is the brain functioning at all? They look like they're dead, they're laying on the ground, not responding. Their brain is probably something going on with it. At that moment, that doesn't conclude that they are dead. We just simply know it is a problem, and we probably should just call 911 and get help, right? But when we combine that with no breathing and no pulse, now we know this person is dead. They need CPR. You want to be found doing CPR with you, your co-workers, whoever is around in the area to help all the way until the ambulance shows up, okay? When they show up, they'll take over and we can save this life together, okay? All right, so there's a lot of information that we can share with you, but we want to make it really quick, get to the bottom of it, all right? You need to put this oxygenated blood in this brain by pushing on the heart, squeezing the blood out of the heart, and refilling the blood back up every time you raise your hands back up from doing the compressions, okay? So you want to push down on this heart, flow the oxygenated blood up these arteries called the carotid artery, fill this brain up with oxygenated blood, or at least sustain the brain with oxygenated blood until the ambulance arrives if they don't come back alive on your watch. And every time you raise back up, the heart fills back up with blood, and you want to continue that, okay? Now, one note, if you don't have a mouth-to-barrier device, okay, we need to consider the fact that you do still have oxygenated blood in your body, right, that can be circulated up to the brain. So consider the fact that it takes about 10 minutes for the ambulance to arrive. Well, it takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds for blood to make a complete circulation around your body. You could have a certain amount of oxygenated blood already in your body that we can then begin starting to circulate that to the brain, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? We want to get started with compressions alone until our mouth-to-barrier device arrives in the first aid kit, most likely. That way we can do CPR safely without the risk of any, bodily fluids getting into our mouth or anything like that, okay? All right, so we're going to conclude it right there. We're going to make it short and sweet, get to the point. You need to know what to do, okay? You're going to push on this heart hard and fast when you've concluded that this person is dead because they're unresponsive, no breathing, no pulse, okay? How do we check for breathing? Rise and fall of the chest. How do we check for the pulse? We want to put 2 fingers checking for the beat of blood flowing through this carotid artery right here on the neck under the jawbone, okay? Once you've concluded that person is dead, call 911. Let's get started as soon as possible. They say 8 out of 10 times, nobody is doing CPR. It's very, very important that we have you guys spread the news, share this information with everybody else. That way we can have more lives saved. Now, the #1 cause of death in the world is heart disease. But did you know that the #1 cause of heart disease is food? Okay, we have multiple videos on high blood pressure, diabetes, and all these different things that can lead to you having to do CPR on somebody, right? So the whole thing that we want to do with CPR and first aid, right, is we want to be safe. That way we don't have to do the first aid, right? So one of the safety things is to control your diet, make sure we're getting exercise, but it's a lot more deeper than that. You really have to learn how to move in a situation where there are a lot of potential risk factors that play that you may not even know about. Okay, so click on our other videos and join us for the online training, and come and join one of our classes if you ever get a chance. Thank you. I'm Chris. This is CPR First Aid Training School. Out.